Coming up on Valley View News, the Anti-Recidivism Coalition keeps people who once were in prison from returning to prison. Plus, union members protest food for less, asking for higher wages. And we hear from a BLM protest and the victims of police brutality.
Hello and welcome to Valley View News. I'm Ava Lang.
And I'm Andrea Esparza in the Digital Media Center.
Appointments are no longer required at Los Angeles vaccination sites. Mayor Eric Garcetti is expanding access to vaccinations. The city will administer more than 250,000 doses. Drive-through vaccination sites include Crenshaw Christian Center, Hanson Dam, and Dodger Stadium, which closes this month. Residents can go to walk-up sites at Cal State LA, USC, Lincoln Park, Pierce College, and San Fernando Park. Officials are now opening more walk-up and mobile vaccination sites closer to where people live.
White House Chief Medical Advisor Dr. Anthony Fauci predicts the U.S. will be back to normal within the year if the majority of Americans get vaccinated.
I hope that next Mother's Day we're going to see a dramatic difference than what we're seeing right now. I believe that we will be about as close to back to normal as we can.
Since 12 to 15-year-olds can now get their shots, he also says people can now start wearing masks seasonally. Fauci added that the flu was essentially non-existent this past year because of face masks being used. He said next year at this time, about 80% of the country will be vaccinated.
Some Food for Less employees boycotted their own store hoping to get higher wages since they are considered essential workers. Our reporter Justin Miranda explains.
The United Food and Commercial Workers Union and some employees of Food for Less protested in front of the supermarket. They want customers to stop shopping at Food for Less for 2 hours in the afternoon today. Matt Bell of the UFCW union says they're doing this to help support the food workers.
Kroger, the parent company, has not been willing to give these workers what they deserve. The workers have basically put their lives on the line through this pandemic.
The workers' contract expired in March. They say now they want a new and more fair contract. Food for Less worker Patricia Garcia.
We'd like more money, of course. That's our top. But we also like, the part-timers to get more hours.
Many shoppers trying to buy groceries were surprised by the demonstration.
I actually don't know what's going on, but, apparently there's just some issues going on here, and
Kroger owns many other companies such as Ralph's, and the workers over there saying they're being treated fairly. Food for Less workers say they want the same thing. Reporting for Valley View News, I'm Justin Miranda.
President Joe Biden is reversing a President Trump policy on gay and transgender rights. The U.S. will now protect gay and transgender people against sex discrimination in healthcare. The Trump administration defined sex as a given gender at birth, and that kept many transgender people from getting healthcare coverage. Health and Human Services Secretary Xavier Becerra said everyone, including the LGBTQ+ community, must have equal access to healthcare. This policy change reflects promises made by Biden during his presidential campaign.
A new Associated Press poll shows that President Biden has a steady approval rating from most Americans. People say they're happy with the way Biden handled the pandemic. In his fourth month, Biden overall approval rating is 63%. 71% of Americans approve of the way he handled the pandemic, including 47% of Republicans. The AP NORC poll also shows a rise in Americans' overall optimism about the state of the country. 54% say the country is on the right track.
Governor Gavin Newsom announced his economic recovery plan. He wants to send new stimulus checks to more Californians. He said that 2 out of every 3 Californians will benefit from another stimulus check. This one will be worth $600, and families with children can receive an extra $500. This would be the greatest state tax rebate in U.S. history, totaling $75 billion.
Today, we're announcing a $75.7 billion budget surplus.
If approved, the plan will expand payments through the Golden State Stimulus Program to millions of people who earn less than $75,000 a year.
Last weekend, the Anti-Recidivism Coalition rallied in a city hall to support people who were caught up in the prison system. The group helps former and current incarcerated people rebuild their lives. Our reporter Casey Contreras has more.
The Anti-Recidivism Coalition, known as ARC, and the group Community X rallied at City Hall last weekend. They say they want to spread awareness and give a voice to those affected by the prison system. Community X founder Chloe Cheyenne says her story inspired her to help others.
Chicago police raided my grandmother's townhome on the south side of Chicago and opened fire on my dad, only to find out that they had the wrong address and it was a case of mistaken identity.
I'm just here today to represent support for those inside, support for my brother doing life.
People should not be judged by the worst thing that they've ever done in their life.
Sam Lewis is executive director of ARC and a former prisoner. He says a great deal has been done to reform the prison system, but still more needs to be done. Also, he thinks society should accept that ex-convicts can be rehabilitated.
What I really want people to know is that people can change. I'm a clear example of people that can change. All of these people are here are a clear example of people that can change.
I did 14 years. I was incarcerated as a youth.
Weston Dennett was in the youth authority system. Later, he was transferred to an adult prison. That's where he got involved with ARC.
The ARC helped me in many ways with groups as far as anger management, with the override. They helped me with certificates. It took a couple weeks off of my sentence.
Community X and ARC continue to help the youth both inside and outside of the justice system. Reporting for Valley View News, I'm Casey Contreras.
7 people died in a shooting at a birthday party in Colorado Springs, Colorado. It happened on Mother's Day. Colorado Springs police say the suspect drove to the home where the party was being held, and he then opened fire before turning the gun on himself.
Officers arrived on scene and have located multiple deceased parties. Preliminary information indicates at this point in time, we believe that the individual, the suspect responsible for the shootings, is also on scene and also deceased.
He's alleged to be the ex-boyfriend of one of the victims. Police are still seeking a motive for the massacre. Victims' names won't be released until families are notified.
New York City police identified a suspect in the Times Square shooting last weekend. Officials say Farrakhan Muhammad attempted to shoot his brother after an argument, but 3 bystanders were shot instead, including a 4-year-old girl. Police officer Alyssa Vogel picked up the little girl and rushed her to a nearby ambulance, followed by the girl's mother.
And I was just telling her, we're on the way to the hospital. Your daughter's going to be okay. Just breathe with me. Everything's going to be okay. I just wanted to reassure her that we were doing everything that we could at that time.
All victims are recovering from non-life-threatening injuries.
A Russian criminal group is suspected in a ransomware attack that shut down a major U.S. gasoline pipeline on Sunday. The Colonial Pipeline supplies fuels to parts of the South and most of the Northeast. The group is known to authorities as Dark Side. It's a relatively new cybercrime syndicate, but it has a sophisticated approach to cyber extortion. Homeland Security Advisor Elizabeth Sherwood Randall said the government is helping Colonial Pipeline restart its 5,500-mile pipeline network.
Thus far, Colonial has told us that it has not suffered damage and can be brought back online relatively quickly, but that safety is a priority, given that it has never before taken the entire pipeline down.
The Colonial Pipeline is the nation's largest gasoline pipeline.
Every Wednesday, Black Lives Matter LA holds a rally calling for more accountability among police officers. Our reporter Gina Wong spoke with family members of those who've been killed in officer-involved shootings.
They're safe and you're okay.
The families of loved ones whose lives were taken by police shootings understand why some people don't like the police. On the street in front of the ACLU, Black Lives Matter LA holds a weekly protest to end police associations. They say police aren't held accountable for some shootings.
You have the family of Daniel Hernandez.
His sister Marina Vergara says he was killed after being shot 6 times in South LA by Officer Tony McBride. After the first 2 shots, he was no longer a threat, but the officer still continued shooting.
The Police Commission Board ruled that the last 2 shots were out of policy.
Deanna Sullivan says her unarmed 19-year-old son was killed by Buena Park police. She claims the police didn't follow proper protocol when they shot her son 7 times.
They didn't try talking to him. They did not try to de-escalate the situation. They just started shooting. And they claimed they were scared.
However, BLM LA organizer Tabitha Jones-Jolivet thinks she knows why some people would support the police.
I think so often people don't understand, 1, what unions are, and 2, there's sort of an acceptance of policing when it's not harming your particular community.
The goal of the protest was to defund the police, but BLM LA wants to use that money to fund mental health services for children. Reporting out Los Angeles for Valley View News, I'm Gina Wong.
More to come on Valley View News. An out-of-control Chinese rocket safely returns to Earth, landing in the sea. And a 62-year-old ex-convict takes on a new title as a Cal State Long Beach alumnus.
I want to eat apples and bananas. I need to eat apples and bananas. Why can't I eat apples and bananas?
Support the Feeding America nationwide network of food banks to help provide meals to those in need. Join us at feedingamerica.org.
Eva Marie smoked 12,000 packs of cigarettes over 15 years. She quit, and now there's a new lung cancer screening that could save her life. You stopped smoking. Now start screening. No matter how much you smoked, early detection could save you. Talk to your doctor or learn more at savedbythescan.org.
It's fine that other people like you. It's more important that you like yourself. And I'm comfortable with every part of me. Meals on Wheels coming to my door as someone who's housebound assures me that I'm not forgotten. They care that I'm okay. My name is Asha Ida Bell. America, let's do lunch.
Drop off a hot meal and say hello. Volunteer by donating your lunch break at americaletsdolunch.org.
Now, let's go to Jahan Lewis in Studio B with updates from around the world. Debris from an out-of-control Chinese rocket landed in the Indian Ocean Sunday. It's common for rocket debris to fall back to Earth. However, concerns arose because the Chinese couldn't control the return.
If you're going to send things up into space and you know they're going to come back, you want to have a controlled re-entry, not an uncontrolled re-entry. And it's not that hard to do.
The 98-foot-long rocket was on its first of 11 expected missions. Experts say that the re-entry of the rocket debris is part of a bigger problem. More crashes could create clouds of space debris, which could cause damage to other satellites and astronauts. Rockets were fired toward Jerusalem from Gaza this week. Gaza's Hamas rulers threatened the attack as Palestinian protesters clashed with Israeli police in the city. So far, more than 300 Palestinians have been wounded in confrontations. They were fighting the evictions of Palestinian families from homes they have lived in for years.
We are continuing to closely monitor the violence in Israel. We have serious concerns about the situation.
This week also marks Israel's capture of East Jerusalem in 1967. Israel was going to hold its annual Jerusalem Day parade, but Palestinians considered the parade a provocation since it fell on the final days of the Islamic holy month of Ramadan. Israeli officials eventually canceled the parade. Thousands of Colombians continue to protest new government policies. The mostly peaceful protests have taken a deadly turn lately. At least 26 people have been killed. Human rights groups warn of increasing abuses by security forces. Demonstrations first erupted on April 28th after the president introduced a tax plan that squeezed the middle class. The plan was withdrawn, but the protests continue to grow. Some experts think the anti-government unrest could spill over into other Latin American countries. The pandemic has left millions without jobs, creating more tension and anger. As India's COVID-19 cases continue to rise, calls for a nationwide lockdown are increasing. The health ministry reports a total of 336,000 new infections and 3,756 deaths. Many hospitals are suffering from shortages of oxygen and beds, while morgues and crematoriums overflow. Prime Minister Narendra Modi continues to face backlash for allowing large gatherings and holding large election rallies in the past 2 months. Many Indian states have already imposed their own lockdowns, but a nationwide lockdown still hasn't been ordered. Chinese authorities continue to search for one of 3 leopards that escaped from Hangzhou Safari Park on April 19th. Deputy Mayor Wang says the animals were spotted late last week. The park initially denied the escape because they didn't want to lose visitors.
2 leopards have been found. Authorities are investigating how they escaped. Meanwhile, they're urging people to stay indoors while the search for the last leopard continues. Reporting from Studio B, I'm Jahan Lewis.
62-year-old Joseph Valdez, a former drug addict, was able to turn his life around. With the help of the Salvation Army and graduates from Cal State Long Beach, our reporter Kimberly Garcia has more on the story.
After 30 years in prison, 12 months in rehab, and 7 years in school, Joseph Valdez graduates from Cal State Long Beach with a bachelor's in sociology.
The same amount of energy that I put into finding and using drugs, the same amount of energy I put in all aspects of my life, and especially my schoolwork.
Valdez turned to the Salvation Army Adult Rehabilitation Center of Anaheim to help him on his journey to sobriety. Lieutenant Tanya Garrett, the program administrator, played a huge role in transitioning Valdez to a new life.
Right? A gangster. He was a gangster at one time, and then now he is a gangster for Jesus, a gangster for education, and so that just makes my heart happy.
Students and staff stop Valdez as he walks through campus to congratulate him. Valdez serves as an inspirational student for Cal State Long Beach. He motivates many to persevere through hardships despite their past.
It touched me to do things that I need to do, and it's never too late, and no problem is ever too bad for you to overcome.
Valdez is now looking forward to starting his social work master's program at Cal State Long Beach. Reporting from Long Beach, I'm Kimberly Garcia.
Mattel wants people to send back their toys when they're done with them. The company started a toy take-back program called Mattel Playback. The program will reuse materials from old toys to create future Mattel products. This is part of their goal to become 100% recycled, recyclable, or using bio-based plastic materials by 2030. For people interested in participating in the program, visit the Mattel website for a free shipping label. For now, Mattel is accepting Barbie, Matchbox, and Mega Toys. More brands will be added in the future.
The National Highway Traffic Safety Administration is investigating reports of a steering problem in Honda Accords. The issue involves more than 1 million Accords, and the bug can cause the car to veer out of its lane. There have been 107 incidents, including 2 accidents that involved crashes and injuries. Accords from the year 2013 to 2015 are affected, and a recall has not been put into effect at this time.
Amazon says it blocked more than 10 billion suspected counterfeit sales on its site in the last year. The numbers were released in Amazon's first report of its anti-counterfeiting efforts. The Seattle-based e-commerce company said the number of attempts to sell fake products on the site during the pandemic rose. The pandemic forced many people to shop online. Amazon said it spent more than $700 million last year on its anti-counterfeiting efforts and had 10,000 people working on it.
Normally, around this time of the year, the Antelope Valley has thousands of people visiting their beautiful poppy fields. But this year, the bloom never happened. Our reporter Sophia Lesios found out why the poppies are staying dormant.
Last year's poppy bloom was magnificent. But with less than 2 inches of rain since January, the Antelope Valley poppy fields experienced a sparse poppy bloom this year.
Well, we really only had one good storm there at the end of January.
California state climatologist Michael Anderson says California's weather is extremely unpredictable.
We have the greatest year-to-year variability of anywhere in the U.S. And in fact, Southern California does the best at this, going from a year that's crazy dry to a year that's crazy wet.
Many poppy tourists were upset to find out that the poppies won't be blooming this year. Singer and social media influencer Wymack came from Las Vegas, Nevada to see the bloom.
I was expecting a lot. So it was so terrible to see how barren it was.
Blooms like those of the recent past years are actually abnormal for the Antelope Valley. Sergeant Matthew Williams, a ranger for the California State Parks Mojave sector, says the flowers won't bloom until next year.
Pretty much everywhere. For there to be a really good bloom, we need there to be at least 10 inches of rain for the water year. And this year we are at just a fraction over 2 inches.
Since the poppies aren't blooming this year, there are other California state parks that are offering camping, trail use, and other activities. Reporting in Lancaster, California for Valley View News, I'm Sophia Lesios.
When we come back, a CSUN sustainability class organized a beach cleanup called Leave No Trace. Also, a family-owned restaurant struggles to survive during the pandemic. Stay with us.
Leah, did you put a new dent in that?
This one? No.
Were you texting and driving again?
Yes.
Hi, Leah.
Hi, Dad.
Sorry about your bumper.
I'm a single mother, and I was the main one working, so I never thought that I could go back to school, you know? My sister, my mother, everybody wanted to help me with my kids. I could not have gotten my diploma without my family.
Find free adult education classes near you at finishyourdiploma.org.
When you're running your own business and taking care of your disabled brother, you tend to learn about responsibility pretty quickly.
The horse that won this year's Kentucky Derby failed a post-race drug test. As a result, its trainer Bob Baffert is indefinitely suspended. However, Baffert says he didn't do anything wrong.
We did not give it. My veterinarian, nobody here. That matter of fact, Medina Spirit has never been treated with betamethasone.
The horse, Medina Spirit, regularly takes an illegal anti-inflammatory drug. Baffert believes that's the reason for the failed test. This is now his 5th horse to have a failed drug test this year. Officials are awaiting results from another sample before making a final decision.
60% of Japanese citizens want the Tokyo Olympics to be canceled. There's less than 3 months left before the start of the game, and Japan is under a state of emergency due to a surge in COVID-19 cases. There's a growing concern about the decision to go ahead. Despite this, Japan intends to have the Olympics on July 23rd. The Japanese Prime Minister vowed to continue the Olympics regardless of the spike in COVID cases.
Students from CSUN's Applied Sustainability class organized a beach cleanup called Leave No Trace. Valley View reporter Sammy Fernandez followed them while they cleaned up Santa Monica Beach.
Picking up trash from beach sand might seem like a drop in the ocean when compared to the massive amount of waste to be found. But CSUN sustainability students like to leave no trace, and that's the name of their organized semester-long beach cleanup project. Leah Panone says there is too much pollution at Santa Monica Beach.
When you look closer, you find little bits of plastic and bottle caps, cigarette butts, and straws, all that type of stuff. And then I realized okay, this is bigger than I thought.
A Plymouth University study found that plastic pollution affects at least 700 marine species. Ocean trash kills at least 100 million marine mammals every year. But CSUN's Daniel Taylor says all of this is also a problem for humanity.
Everything is connected on the planet, and people don't seem to realize that sometimes, but if one ecosystem collapses, it's going to affect every other element.
15 people of different ages took part helping to clean up the beach, and Heather Berg was among them.
There are a lot of animals and critters out there that do not need to be ingesting any of the crap that we as humans keep putting out there.
Middle schooler Andy Daly was walking on the beach with her dad. She saw what was happening and decided to stay and help. She wants more young people like her to start getting more involved in taking care of the earth. Otherwise, they are dooming the future.
I feel like if we don't do something now, that we'll actually have to deal with a lot of dead animals, and that won't be pretty.
The beach cleanup started as a project for Professor Lorraine Lundquist's class. She's a former candidate for LA City Council District 12. She says sustainability and policy are directly correlated, and there is no such thing as a small action.
You do have a voice, you can have an impact. Don't get caught in that idea that these problems are too big for us to make a dent in, because not only can you make a dent and can you make a difference in the world, but it can actually be really fun.
The COVID-19 pandemic is not an excuse to not help the environment. Remember to think global, but act local. Reporting from Santa Monica Beach for Valley View News, I'm Sammy Fernandez.
Dogecoin had a huge price drop during Elon Musk's SNL appearance last weekend. Many Dogecoin believers had anticipated a price surge for the cryptocurrency after his appearance. Since Elon Musk's tweet about Dogecoin in April, the cryptocurrency rose in price from a penny to 70 cents. Many of Elon Musk's followers and crypto fanatics didn't foresee the plummet of Dogecoin's price. They were hoping Elon Musk's skit would push the price closer to $1. There's still a possibility the Dogecoin's price could bounce back.
Seth Rogen says he'll no longer work with James Franco. In an interview, the Canadian-American actor said he has no plans of working with Franco after several sexual allegations of misconduct. Some students from Franco's acting class came forth in 2018 saying they were intimidated by him into having sexual relations. This led to lawsuits which were settled in February. In a 2018 interview, Rogen said he would still work for Franco despite the sexual accusations, but that has now changed.
The documentary series co-created by Oprah and Prince Harry will be released this month. The Me You Can't See will be a multi-part series exploring the impacts of mental health on high-profile celebrities. The project aims to promote conversation and awareness about mental health through stories and discussions guided by Winfrey and Harry. It'll include other celebrity appearances such as Lady Gaga and Glenn Close. The show will appear on Apple TV+.
Many family-owned restaurants had to close down due to the pandemic. Valley View News reporter Chloe Hooper shows how one family managed to survive.
COVID-19 has affected the restaurants.
Many small family-owned restaurants have struggled since the pandemic. Most restaurants had to shut down. Now that they're opening back up, some have lost or are losing customers.
People not coming to sit down, enjoying their meals.
The restaurant was hit hard by the pandemic. In an article by Bloomberg, they wrote that more than 110,000 food places were forced to shut down until further notice. The owner, Benny Kwame, says even though restaurants can open at 25% capacity, she and her husband decided not to.
We did have outside dining at one point, and then they shut it down. So we decided no more outside dining, even with the 25%.
They want to keep themselves and their customers safe.
No outside dining, no inside dining.
Many family restaurants have been affected negatively because of the pandemic. Toto's African Cuisine in Van Nuys is adjusting and doing their best to stay open. I'm Chloe Hooper reporting for Valley View News.
Olivia and Liam were America's most popular names for baby girls and boys in 2020. This is according to the Social Security Administration's annual list of top baby names released last week. For a second year in a row, Olivia, Emma, and Ava were the top 3 most popular names. The fastest growing name for boys is Zaire for boys, and for girls, it's Avaya. Michael and Mary continue to be the most frequently used names, trending for the past 100 years. Well, Ava, how does it feel to have the most popular name in the country?
Well, I'm clearly a trendsetter.
Well, it seems that in the near future, we may be running into a lot of Avas. That's all for us at Valley View News. I'm Andrea Esparza.
And I'm Ava Lang. For more stories any time of the day, go to our website, CSUNValleyView.com. Thanks for watching.